A Light into Darkness, a play in 4 acts by Tony Rayner. The action takes place in Paris, France, beginning in 1776. Benjamin Franklin, the American commissioner to France, has come to the kingdom to convince its ruler to send much-needed military aid to the American colonies in support of their war for independence. Franklin is accompanied by his 2 slaves, George and King. Act 1, Scene 1. Franklin's lodgings. George places a basket containing a selection of French breads on the buffet, which already holds a coffee pourer, a teapot, and a variety of condiments. He adjusts the settings on the dining table set for 2. There is a knock on the door. George answers.
Bonjour. I am Monsieur de Beaumarchais. I have an appointment with Monsieur Franklin.
Yes, sir. He's expecting you. Come in, please. I'll tell Massa you're here.
Merci. Thank you. What is your name?
George, sir. Please go on and have a seat.
George exits. Pierre spots a coonskin cap on the desk. He examines it curiously. Franklin, King, and George enter. King is using a brush to remove lint from his master's jacket.
Monsieur de Beaumarchais, finally we meet. Thank you, King, that's enough. Welcome, monsieur. It is nice to put a face through your vast correspondence these past several months.
Ah, there I have the advantage, Mr. Franklin. All in Europe are acquainted with your brilliant continents.
Please call me Benjamin.
I could not, Mr. Franklin, and I hope you won't be offended if I ask that you continue to refer to me as Monsieur de Beaumarchais.
As you wish. I suppose I have a bit to learn about French etiquette.
Despite your reputation as the most accomplished mind in America, you will find that at least a few individuals you encounter in Paris will be quick to teach. Again, I ask that you not allow it to offend. It is de rigueur, especially amongst members of the nobility.
I understand. Thank you for that valuable knowledge and advice. Please sit down. I hope you are hungry. Some Philadelphians tend toward a large breakfast. American in spirits, but often English in custom.
I'm famished.
I thought you might enjoy a taste of what I pray your country's generosity will support.
Pierre sits.
It smells delicious.
Franklin sits.
You may serve.
George brings coffee.
I'm drinking coffee. Tea is quite out of fashion in America. But not knowing your preference, George has prepared English tea as well.
Coffee, s'il vous plaît.
Has there been any additional progress since your last letter, or are we still at an impasse?
At an impasse, yet I am optimistic that our venture will soon be given the necessary support that will ignite swift and effective action. It centers entirely on convincing the king that you rebels can win your war for independence. Every battle against Britain in which you are victorious builds confidence within His Majesty that investment in the American cause is prudent.
I take it that King Louis doesn't hold the same outlook that we do regarding the righteousness of our fight.
I am afraid not, Mr. Franklin. Your desire for independence is seen as a dangerous affront to monarchy by every royal house throughout Europe. France has yet to recover from the great financial blow we took as a result of 7 years of bloody fighting with Prussia and Britain. In fact, Paris has recently experienced several violent protests over the high price of flour. The king is anxious to secure an end to our economic despair, regain lost territory, and obtain revenge against our old adversaries.
King places a bowl of hasty pudding before Pierre and then Franklin.
What have we here?
American hasty pudding, very popular in the colonies, made from corn instead of the English tradition of using wheat. There are a variety of additions for your choosing: milk, maple syrup, molasses, and butter.
Ah,
He adds milk and syrup.
delightfully rustic.
King places a selection of jams on the table, while George offers French breads.
Well, I recognize these.
He selects a few. George serves them.
I had George purchase a variety of your Parisian breads this morning. They were surprisingly a bit difficult to find. Please help yourself to the jam from the colonies. There is cherry, apple, and raspberry.
Pierre tries one of the jams.
Delicious? Where was I? Oh, yes. It is King Louis's feeling that if we assist you rebels in any way, and independence is not won, the English king will be in a position to avenge what will be the disregard of international treaty. The possibility of immense wealth pouring into the royal coffers has been weighed against the possibility of complete financial disaster. At this point, His Majesty sees the odds to be in favor of disaster.
As brilliant and determined as General Washington is, he continues to find it difficult to be victorious against our powerful oppressors without the desperately needed weapons and provisions that French support would provide. After being beaten at Boston, Quebec, and New York, it was an absolute miracle that our forces were able to take and maintain control of New Jersey. Perhaps His Majesty could be convinced that it is his much-needed investment that will guarantee our victory and finally bring about an end to France's economic despair.
I have tried to open his mind to that path of thinking, but have been informed by Louis's foreign minister, Le Comte de Vergennes, that the king sees that road as being choked with hazardous speculation. I am afraid, Mr. Franklin, that until your General Washington can somehow manage at least one substantial victory against the British, my hands are tied.
Would it be possible for you to arrange a meeting between Le Comte de Vergennes and myself?
I suppose I could try, but as you know, it took a frustrating amount of time to finally gain an appointment with the minister myself. Now that I have earned his trust and confidence regarding all aspects of our venture, I believe it to be highly imprudent to chance losing his solid support by introducing an unfamiliar personality. May I suggest, Mr. Franklin, that you focus your attention on accepting what I have no doubt will be a multitude of invitations to the most exclusive salons in Paris. Turn none of them down. For the more entertainment you can provide the nobility, especially the ladies, whom you have a well-earned reputation of enchanting, the better it will be for us. A warning, however, the specific details of our relationship and potential business agreement should never be discussed. There are those in Paris, motivated by envy, who would resort to the sabotage of such a partnership.
Once more, Monsieur de Beaumarchais, I must thank you for your wise advice.
King removes the pudding bowls. George replaces them with a full plate.
Not at all.
To George.
Thank you. Well, what have we here?
A mixture of peas, turnips, parsnips, and carrots, sweet potato mash, and caught fish cakes with bacon.
Pierre tastes the fish with bacon, then just eats the mash and vegetables.
Let me add to your list of public appearances by asking that you attend a performance of my newest work, a Spanish play, La Barrière de Seville.
Absolutely. Why Spanish?
I spent a year in Madrid some time ago, and the experience made a profound impression on me. I made acquaintance with a beautiful, long-suffering noblewoman with a philandering husband, yet each episode of his infidelity caused absolutely no diminishment in her love, nor any desire for revenge via the company of other men. My play is the first of what I plan to be 3 that explores the mind of that woman and her husband's futile attempts to destroy her unbending loyalty. It is not all serious. In fact, much of the action centers around the comic antics of a clever and mischievous servant barber I call Figaro. I have always believed that an audience will take medicine much easier with the addition of a dose of sugar.
Received well, I take it.
After a rather unfortunate premiere production, it was extremely well received in its subsequent presentation.
You rewrote it then?
Not a word. Suffice to say that artistic jealousy among playwrights can induce the same level of vicious reaction one would find amongst the impeccably mannered court of the king, the intention being complete destruction.
I will make it a priority to attend.
It would be an honor, Mr. Franklin. Oh, I almost forgot. I brought a gift to welcome you to Paris.
Monsieur de Beaumarchais, thank you.
Please open it.
As you wish. Well, beautiful.
It's a pocket watch.
Yes, of that I am aware.
My own design, the most accurate in Europe. I was formerly a watchmaker, apprenticed at age 12 by my own father, a watchmaker of great renown.
I shall wear it proudly.
Thank you for a delightful breakfast. The service was excellent.
You are most welcome, monsieur.
I do not know why I did not think of this sooner. I have encouraged you to accept all invitations to the noble salons of Paris, but why not give a salon yourself? If you like, I can make all the arrangements, including what I think you will find to be both exciting and moving entertainment.
Who would I invite? I have yet to be acquainted with anyone in Paris beside yourself.
Leave that to me as well. Besides members of my own circle, who are not without some influence, I have personal knowledge that Her Majesty the Queen harbors intense curiosity regarding the great Benjamin Franklin of America. Her acceptance of an invitation and your success at wooing her support of our cause could mean at the least a modicum manipulation of the king.
My dear Monsieur de Beaumarchais, I am astounded at the prospect of having Her Majesty Marie Antoinette at my lodgings. Please make it happen. Spare no expense to provide all that is suitable.
It is settled then.
George heads to the main entrance.
I will contact you presently. Adieu, Mr. Franklin, until the afternoon of your grand salon.
Monsieur de Beaumarchais, adieu and thank you.
George opens the door for Pierre.
Oh, please be sure to wear your coonskin chapeau, Mr. Franklin. It is how many of us picture you.
As you wish.
Bonjour.
Good day.
Pierre exits.
Paris just might be the death of me.
George and King begin to clean up.
A courtesan exits Franklin's bedroom.
Monsieur Franklin, I am so bored in there all by myself.
Oh, my dear, we can't have that. Are you hungry?
Starving.
Well, I must see that you are fed.
Yes, you must. Immediately.
She returns to the bedroom. Franklin follows. Act 1, Scene 2. Therese's apartment. Therese sits at her desk, carefully perusing the contract that is hoped will win the approval of the king, and then the signature of Franklin. There is a large crucifix hanging on the wall. Her maid, Cecile, enters with a tray set with tea for two. Cecile pours 1 cup, adds 4 spoonfuls of sugar and milk, then hands the cup to her mistress.
Anything else, madame?
No, merci.
Cecile exits. Pierre enters using his key.
Bonjour, menage.
Pierre.
Pierre kisses her neck.
Well, how was your meeting with Monsieur Franklin?
I do not believe the outcome could have been improved. Not at this point. He is at least clear in his mind regarding the king's requirements before any French aid is forthcoming. All we can do is wait for a turnaround in their war with Britain.
Tea?
Merci. I see you've read the contract. It only needs the signatures of Vergennes and His Majesty to set all in motion.
Pierre adds 4 spoons of sugar to his tea.
If Monsieur Franklin agrees to these terms, it would mean a spectacular return on your investment.
He will agree to almost anything to guarantee French support. Once the war is won, the access to cash and natural resources will be unimaginable. What I am asking as payment to secure needed weapons and supplies will amount to a tiny fraction of those riches.
I have prayed that God will grant you all that is required.
May our joint entreaty to God persuade him in our favor.
I am not going to think about it any more today. I won't be able to sleep. Did Monsieur Franklin look as you expected?
For the most part, perhaps a bit older. His bent toward the rustic was no surprise. I was served what he described as typical American cuisine. The entire experience, save for the addition of fresh and quite delicious French breads, was like a visit to the wilds of nowhere. Despite the lack of sophistication in the meal, his two Negro valets, slaves, ironically named King and George, provided quite elegant service.
He has 2 slaves with him?
Not surprising. I have to admit that the 2 Negroes have impeccable manners and were dressed immaculately, perhaps even a bit better than their master.
Sounds somewhat comical. I wonder if they are aware that here in Paris they could sue for their liberty.
I can say without the slightest doubt that they are unaware of that fact, and you or anyone we might introduce to the American commissioner must not enlighten them. It could place all that we have worked for in jeopardy.
Of course. What is the commissioner's plan of action while in Paris?
I'm confident he will follow my advice, which he seems to appreciate, and take advantage of his celebrity status by accepting every invitation he receives to the exclusive salons of Paris. The more support he can garner, the better. It might have some influence on the speed of our success. It also, I hope, will keep him so preoccupied that he won't return to his initial inclination to attempt to gain an audience with Le Comte de Vergennes.
What?
Oh yes, what a disaster that could lead to. Vergennes might be put off by him, which could mean an end of his support. Or even worse, he might fall in love with the brilliant Benjamin Franklin and decide to deal directly with him, cutting me entirely out of the picture. Luckily, I was able to dissuade the commissioner, at least for now.
Thank God for that.
I also piled on an additional project for him to focus on. I suggested that he hold his own salon, and I volunteered to make all the arrangements, including the invitations. Amongst those to attend, I hope, will be Her Majesty.
She will provide a good deal of distraction.
Yes, but it won't be a small feat to make her salon suitable.
It is quite ironic, is it not, that a man who represents the cause of equality and individual freedom has come to a bastion of divine monarchy to win support.
Do not take too seriously the words of their Declaration of Independence. Mr. Franklin, Mr. Jefferson, and the other fine gentlemen who endorsed that document want nothing more than to end British domination to enable the landed gentry to gain what will be immense wealth. Believe me, it has little, if anything, to do with attacking the status quo or winning personal individual freedom for all men.
By the way, Charles paid a visit today. He said that he thought you would be here. I informed him that you were meeting with the American commissioner, but would return shortly afterward. He appeared somewhat anxious, then suddenly insisted that he could not wait and left. Strange.
That is certainly out of character for Charles. He was well aware of the exact day and time of my appointment with Monsieur Franklin. I will try to locate him this evening.
My dear, can it not wait until tomorrow? I was looking forward to spending the entire evening with you.
Of course it can wait, Monage. Whatever was disturbing Charles, I am sure it will be less disturbing tomorrow. Come here.
They kiss. Act 1, Scene 3. Joseph's one-room lodging. Furnished a bit too fully. Fine art, including a portrait of his father, Georges de Boulogne Saint-Georges, and a bust of his mother, Nanon. Joseph is playing on the violin from the first movement, Allegro moderato, of his violin concerto, A major, opus 5, number 3. Jacques sits listening.
That is beautiful, Joseph. So full of life.
Merci, mon ami. It still needs some work, but it is getting where I want it.
You say that every time. Your work is always on its way, but never arrives. Yet it can be so difficult to execute. One must often play so high on the fingerboard and then move immediately back down. It requires a contortionist to perfect. Have you ever been completely happy with any composition?
Completely happy? No.
Joseph picks up a letter from his desk.
Are you interested in this or not?
Yes, I am interested. Like you, I need the funds.
But
the prospect of being so soundly defeated in public is not very appealing.
It is an exhibition, my friend, not a duel. We need only make the encounter entertaining.
Are you saying that you will allow me to win?
You winning is entirely in your hands, Jacques. It is not the case that I have never been beaten. Have you forgotten Gian Faldoni?
Was that not 10 years ago? And you have not lost at fencing since.
All right. I give you my word that no matter what the outcome, your ego will be spared embarrassment.
Then I happily agree to participate. 1 month of expenses paid for in an afternoon.
This is not the first time Monsieur de Beaumarchais has made such an offer. It behooves me to remain in his good graces, considering my present financial state.
What about the prospect of meeting this Benjamin Franklin of America? I wonder if he will live up to his reputation.
From what is rumored, he has made this visit to France to garner royal support for his countrymen's rebellion against Britain. If that is truly the case, I am sure he will do everything possible to appear deserving of his reputation.
There might be an opportunity for one of us to challenge the enlightened philosophy of America's Declaration of Independence.
Perhaps. It is fascinating that such a document was produced by the greatest minds of a society entrenched in the absolute dependence on slavery.
Sadly, it confirms what you and I have always recognized, that the victories of our organization and others like it throughout Europe represent only the beginning of a still very long struggle to bring an end to that savage institution.
Speaking of our struggles, we have received another barrage of threats. This was left at my door.
Joseph shows Jacques another letter.
I am willing to bet that this one is courtesy of the British slave cartel.
Why are these threats always left with you instead of at the doors of the Société des Amis de Noir? Or at my door, considering I am credited as the founder of the organization?
I am the more obvious target. You could not be jealous.
Of course I am. What does it say this time?
More of the same. Threats of death to every member of the society. Our office annihilated by horrendous explosion. Reputations destroyed, and on and on.
These continued threats mean that we are having an impact on what matters most to the slave traders and their clients. Profit. The followers of abolitionist philosophy grow in number by the day.
Siècle des Lumières. Century of Enlightenment. It has had a distinct effect on the moral climate of Europe. Its philosophy permeates to some degree every level of French society, including Louis himself. I believe our detractors have not yet moved beyond threats because of that.
You know me, whatever they might do to us, I won't rest until we taste sweet revenge. You are the only person to whom I will freely admit how much disreputable pleasure that would give me.
That is not quite in the philosophy of the Enlightenment.
I don't care. Violent revenge is like an extremely satisfying whore that one visits when they have had their fill of respectable pleasure. Delicious.
I would give anything to have the opportunity to experience my fill of respectability, at least the marital variety.
Arnaud still refuses to marry you.
She has convinced herself that her illustrious career will end the moment our union is made public. The worst part is, I cannot say with complete confidence that she is wrong.
But she loves you.
Desperately, she says, and you know my feelings for her. I cannot imagine making any other woman my wife. We two living openly, having children, growing old together. Everything within me yearns for that.
I wonder if my capacity for that depth of feeling for a woman was carved out of me or never lived within my heart at all.
I envy your capacity to be devoid of emotional entanglement. It makes romance much easier, doesn't it?
Women would not describe me as romantic. My best advice to you, my dear friend, is to forget Mademoiselle Arnaud. Why not welcome the many ladies of the aristocracy who constantly vie to experience your pleasures? It would be at least distracting.
I have enough enemies without adding additional wronged husbands.
Then focus only on your numerous prospects for success. You are one of the most celebrated men in France. Your extraordinary talents have catapulted you beyond the world's racist limitations. Granted, at the moment we are both experiencing a financial crisis due to that over which you had no control and I chose not to control.
I was naive regarding my half-sister's greed. Trust should only be afforded to those who have earned it, regardless of any familial ties. But your willingness to risk financial distress to provide free legal counsel to those in desperate need of it, I call the actions of a man of the noblest character.
Well, if I can be free from any doubts regarding my eventual return to financial comfort, you should certainly be without such doubts. It will shortly be decided by His Majesty who will be awarded the position of director of the Paris Opera. The candidates are few, and you are number one on the list. No one else in France has proven themselves more qualified both in talent and temperament.
Being awarded the appointment will bring an end to my shortage of funds, but it will also bring Sophie and I even closer. We will not only be privately in love, but as a major star of the opera, she will then be under my direction.
Only time will tell what will become of that. One of the inescapable aspects of life. There is always something.
Act 1, Scene 4. Franklin's salon has been transformed with the addition of large, cheerful paintings, luxurious window drapes, a large, round, upholstered banquette, a piano, and several large vases filled with flowers. A downstage rectangular space has been made for the fencing exhibition. The buffet is abundant with a variety of meats, fruits, vegetables, sweets, bread, along with a ceramic urn of hot chocolate and of coffee. The atmosphere is bright and festive. Sophie performs a cappella a Mozart song in German. Wie unglücklich bin ich nicht. Marie, Polignac, Franklin, Pierre, Charles, Henri, Therese, King, and George all listen attentively. Franklin wears his coonskin cap. King offers wine from a tray, and George offers a tray piled high with a variety of sweets. They both work under the direction of Pierre's valet, Henri.
Mademoiselle Arnauld, thank you. Lovely. My highest praise to both you and Herr Mozart.
My honor and pleasure, Mr. Franklin. I am delighted to make your acquaintance.
She offers her neck to be kissed. Franklin obliges.
As am I to make yours. You are a great beauty, mademoiselle.
Oh, merci.
Marie approaches.
Mr. Franklin, how long will you be in Paris?
At this point, Your Majesty, my stay is indefinite. It depends on how long it takes to convince the king that it will benefit France to support the American colonies.
Knowing what motivates His Majesty, that kind of support will carry a substantial price. Do you Americans have such means?
Yes, Your Highness. When victory comes, we will have the means to fully repay all incurred debt.
Surely you will accept support from any country that has the resources you require.
Of course, our plan is to approach many royal houses in Europe, all of them if necessary.
How very interesting. You must visit me at Versailles, Monsieur Franklin. The festivities at the Petit Trianon would be made even more festive by your presence.
Petit Trianon?
My private chateau.
I would be honored, Your Majesty.
Marie exposes her neck to be kissed. Franklin obliges.
You have not yet met my friend and companion, Madame de Polignac. Madame?
Polignac approaches.
My dear, I want to introduce you to Monsieur Benjamin Franklin of America, the great mind of the wilderness.
Monsieur Franklin,
Polignac offers her neck. Franklin obliges.
Madame de Polignac, welcome. I hope we have been able to provide Her Majesty and yourself some level of pleasurable distraction.
The hot chocolate is exquisite, Monsieur Franklin. I am thrilled to meet the world's wizard of electricity. I owe you so much. Your lightning rod saved the life of my younger brother during a raging storm last year.
Thank you, Madame. That knowledge fills my heart with joy. It also reminds me of a demonstration I've prepared. Monsieur de Beaumarchais.
Pierre approaches.
Now is an appropriate moment for my demonstration.
Absolument, monsieur.
Pierre signals Henri, who fetches a pre-prepared tray of the items Franklin will be using.
If you will excuse me, Your Majesty. Madame.
Mesdames and Messieurs, may I have your attention? With the permission of Her Highness, Monsieur Franklin would like to perform for your amusement a demonstration that will produce electricity.
There are reactions of excitement. Marie nods her approval. All gather.
Your Majesty, ladies and gentlemen, there is no need to concern yourselves regarding any danger. The amount of charge that will be produced is not enough to cause harm. I am going to manipulate these common items, lemons and a strip of both copper and zinc, in such a way as to create positive and negative forces. When these opposing forces are made to connect, the product of the resulting battle will be electricity. There, all is ready. Your Highness, if I might have your assistance, the only remaining element needed, if you'll forgive me, is your tongue.
My tongue?
Yes, please place both metal strips against your tongue. You will receive a surprise.
Oh, I feel it. I feel the electricity. Gabrielle, come, you must try it.
Polignac complies.
Ah, how electrifying.
There is applause.
Brilliant, Monsieur Franklin. Your nickname of electrical ambassador is quite apropos.
Pierre signals Henri to have the instruments of the demonstration removed.
Now, Your Highness, Mesdames and Messieurs, if you will place yourselves around this central area, I have arranged for an exhibition of the art of fencing by the renowned Chevalier de Saint-Georges.
What an unexpected surprise.
Monsieur de Beaumarchais, how wonderful! You are in for a treat, Monsieur Franklin.
All move into place. Pierre signals Henri to summon the fencers from the sitting room. Charles approaches Pierre.
How could you invite that Negro here? His presence will be an insult to Mr. Franklin.
No need for concern, Charles. Any objections Benjamin Franklin might have will be allayed by the Chevalier's considerable talent.
Rather intensified by it.
Jacques enters and takes his place, followed by Joseph. Franklin, King, and George are surprised by Joseph's race. Joseph crosses himself. The exhibition begins. Joseph is victorious. There's applause and cheers.
Magnificent! Congratulations! Mr. Franklin, may I present Chevalier de Saint-Georges, the most talented swordsman in France?
Well, thank you, sir. Welcome. That was certainly an exciting demonstration.
Merci, Monsieur Franklin. I am most honored. May I introduce my talented opponent and friend, Monsieur Brissot?
Wonderfully done, monsieur. You were very close to being the victor.
Merci, monsieur. But in truth, my appreciation must be given to the Chevalier for allowing me to look good.
You are most kind.
I am afraid kindness is not the foremost element of my character.
May I ask the Chevalier how long he has lived in France?
Since the age of 8, Mr. Franklin. My father and mother brought me to Paris from Guadeloupe Island.
Fascinating. I would love to hear more. Would you do me the honor of dining with me next week?
The honor would be mine, monsieur.
Good. Let's say Tuesday.
Yes.
Perfect. I will send word regarding the details. I look forward to it most anxiously.
Monsieur?
Commissioner, I have arranged one more bit of entertainment this evening. Mademoiselle Arnaud has chosen a song in honor of your cause.
Lovely.
She will be accompanied on the piano by the Chevalier.
You're a musician as well?
A musician, composer, conductor, our Chevalier de Saint-Georges is a source of great pride here in France.
Quite impressive.
Whenever you are ready, Mademoiselle Arnaud, Chevalier.
Monsieur Franklin, in honor of the American struggle for liberty, I have chosen an aria by the great George Friedrich Handel, Lascia ch'io pianga. I hope you enjoy it.
Sophie signals Joseph. They begin. Act 1, Scene 5. Joseph's room. He has given Sophie an extravagant ring that she has placed on her right-hand ring finger.
Oh, Joseph, it is beautiful, really exquisite. And the thought that it belonged to your mamma. Merci beaucoup, mon amour.
She kisses his lips lightly.
Just a moment. An exquisite gift deserves an exquisite show of appreciation.
He kisses her deeply.
I must sit down.
You could make this moment even more memorable by choosing to wear this on your left hand.
My love, s'il vous plaît, I don't wish to have this discussion today. You know it upsets me, and I have to perform this evening.
All right, as you wish.
He moves to his desk and begins to work, ignoring her.
Joseph, don't. You know it has nothing to do with my love for you. Ma chérie.
She attempts to kiss him. He turns away, continues to work.
I did not create the rules of the world, Joseph, but I must abide by them or perish. What you and I have is wonderful. At least let us hold on to that.
This is enough for you? Meeting always alone as if our love is a secret that we are ashamed of?
I have never felt shame, only lucky.
Lucky?
Yes, you are the best man I have ever known. With you there is never a moment when I am not conflicting myself. No lies.
Sophie, if that is how you truly feel, then we must be married. Proudly, not hiding. Our love should be celebrated openly. You bearing my children, us growing old together. Does your career really matter in the face of gaining such lasting happiness?
You told me that you fell in love with me the first time that you saw me perform. There are only two places in the world where I am really alive, here with you and on stage. In comparison, all else is darkness. Would you still have the capacity to love me so deeply if your talents were taken away? Your ability to compose such stunning music gone? Or if the thrill of your physical victories could never again be experienced?
I do not know.
Well, I do. I think I know you better than you know yourself, and the answer is no.
I am sorry, my darling. I do not wish you to be unhappy.
I could never be truly unhappy when I am with you.
They embrace. Act 1, Scene 6. Joseph's room. He holds a painting removed from his wall. He hands it to the merchant in return for cash.
Merci, Chevalier. Bonjour.
The merchant exits. Joseph counts the coins, grateful for the infusion of funds, but still weary of the future. He moves to his desk to continue composing, plays the violin to work out a bit of melody. His violin concerto, Opus 3, No. 1 in D, the second movement. There is a knock at the door.
Jacques?
Yes.
You are late.
Joseph opens the door. 3 masked men push into the room. Assassin 1 punches Joseph, sending him across the room. Joseph pulls a sword from his collection, and a violent battle ensues between him, Assassin 1, and Assassin 2, while Assassin 3 remains at the door as lookout. Joseph seriously wounds Assassin 2. After being nearly overcome, he kills Assassin 1. The lookout draws a pistol, aims it at Joseph, fires, and misses. He attempts to pull his sword, but Joseph is on him too quickly. During their hand-to-hand fighting, the one badly wounded assassin manages to escape. Joseph gains the upper hand on Assassin 3, pulling off his mask to reveal Charles.
Leclerc.
With one hard punch, Charles pulls free and escapes. Joseph doesn't have the strength to pursue. He closes the door and sits. There is a knock on the door.
Qui est-ce?
Joseph? It is Jacques.
Joseph opens the door.
What happened?
I was attacked. There were 3. One of them Charles Leclerc.
Leclerc has joined our enemies?
I have always known him to be my enemy, despite his ingratiating smiles. I have never trusted him.
They have finally acted on their threats?
Our organization must be doing more harm than we are aware of.
I will see that Leclerc is dealt with. Come on, you had better rest.
Referring to the dead body.
I will see to this trash.
Act 2, Scene 1. Franklin's lodgings. Franklin and Joseph are playing chess. George and King quietly clear the remaining items used for dinner service from the buffet. King pours each gentleman more cognac, returning the bottle to the buffet.
Thank you, King. Why don't you and George retire? You can finish up tomorrow.
All right, Mansell. Good night. Good night, sir.
Good night. Thank you, both of you, for a wonderful dinner and excellent service.
Good night, Massa. Sir.
George and King exit. Joseph makes a chess move, then Franklin.
Checkmate.
Ah, you are quite accomplished at this game, Monsieur Franklin. Perhaps with what I have learned tonight, I will be able to give you more of a challenge next time.
Merci, Chevalier. Chess has been an obsession of mine for many years. This cognac is superb. Thank you again for the gift.
My pleasure. You have been a very good listener this evening, Mr. Franklin. I have told you almost everything about my fortunate history. I hope your curiosity has been satisfied. However, you have spoken very little about yourself. I am aware of your reputation, of course. Do you believe that to truly represent who you are?
For the most part, perhaps not a complete portrait. However, what is able to be viewed by the eyes of the world, I would say, does represent who I am.
Then I am sincerely pleased, monsieur, to have been given the opportunity to make your acquaintance. As you now know, my mother spent many harsh years as a slave on a Guadeloupe sugar plantation before being granted freedom by my father, simply because he loved her and could no longer bear to see the woman he had come to adore remain a slave.
Yes?
Many in Europe have been imbued with a profound hope for substantial and permanent change within the world, inspired by America's revolutionary document, your Declaration of Independence. The philosophy of self-evident equality amongst all men is a bright light shone into thousands of years of darkness.
I see where you are going with this, Chevalier. Before you deliver a pointed accusation of hypocrisy, let me explain to you what my colleagues and I foresaw when drafting our declaration. It is not a document that we anticipated would bring about instant individual freedom and equality amongst all men, but a philosophy that would help place multitudes on the road that leads, eventually, to such liberty.
My apologies, monsieur. I was under the mistaken impression that you Americans desired immediate release from the yoke of British tyranny. It was rumored that you are here in France to convince His Majesty to send support for a war being fought to gain that freedom as swiftly as possible.
Victory in our war with Britain equates with the first steps along that path to eventual freedom for all. The ways of the world cannot be changed in a matter of months, Chevalier, not even in a few years. The philosophy of individualism has swirled within intellectual minds for centuries.
Yet those who already enjoy the privilege of that freedom, although they must live in the world as it is, possess the ability to choose not to participate in what unquestionably contradicts that which is self-evident.
The relationship that I share with King and George goes far beyond one of master and slave. The years have formed a bond of unshakable trust, loving companionship, and mutual dependency. I would find it painfully difficult to do without then, and I'm without the slightest doubt that they both harbor similar, if not identical, regards for me.
You have discussed these feelings with them?
One doesn't always need to confirm unbreakable connections with words.
I understand. They would never part from you, nor you from them.
Never.
Then why not grant them the freedom to maintain such cherished ties based entirely on loyalty and devoted love? Why not grant yourself that liberty?
In my household, they have always lived under the condition of such freedom. I never demand anything from them, I only request.
Then they occasionally deny your requests?
How dare you, sir, partake of my hospitality and then proceed to question and insult the very essence of the character of my home? King and George are family to me, as dear as any other of its members.
As dear as the most beloved of household pets, perhaps. The very names King and George suggest the same level of loving regard one would give to two loyal and docile dogs.
Franklin flips over the table.
I want you out of here.
Since I have apparently exhausted all of your responses, save for the violent, I bid you good night. Thank you for a memorable evening, monsieur.
Joseph exits. Act 2, Scene 2. Therese's apartment.
It is unbelievable, Pierre. Despite my faith that this day would come, unbelievable. My darling, I am happy for you. Proud of you.
How exciting it is when one's due diligence results in success. I have learned through the years that it is certainly not guaranteed.
There is a knock on the door.
Charles, come in, my dear friend. How did you know that I would be here?
I took a chance.
Therese and I have wonderful news. I have received a letter from the hand of Le Comte de Vergennes, informing me that King Louis has agreed finally to invest in the American War for Independence. 6 million livres, Charles, to provide weapons, uniforms, provisions, ships for its transport, everything.
Then the rebels have managed a major victory.
At a place called Saratoga. General Washington has proven himself a formidable force, pushing his troops even in their degraded condition to great triumph. His Majesty has been inspired to believe that their war against Britain can be won. I am on my way to the American Commissioner to inform him that his arduous diplomacy has not been in vain. Mon frère, stay here with Therese until I return. I should not be long. Therese, you and I can have a proper celebration.
As you wish. Pierre, congratulations.
Merci, mon ami. There are no other individuals that I would care to share this moment with more than the two of you. Goodbye, my love.
Be careful. In your ecstatic state of mind, parts of the city might prove especially dangerous. Return to me safe and sound.
I will be careful. Adieu, Charles.
Pierre exits.
Have a cup of hot chocolate, Charles. I was just about to, before all the excitement.
Nelsie, Pierre loves you very much.
Yes, I am very lucky.
He is the lucky one.
I appreciate that, Charles.
I often wonder if he truly knows how fortunate he is to possess you. He continues to deny you the respectability of marriage.
You know the situation with his sister Lisette. The poor girl depends entirely on Pierre to maintain her emotional stability. The mere suggestion that her brother might marry again sends her into such a state that it fills Pierre with horrifying fear about what she might do. And Charles, I am not Pierre's possession. I am the woman he loves, not his pet.
May I tell you why I came here today?
If it was not to visit your dearest friend, then no, you may not.
Therese, you may be the woman that Pierre loves, but whether you wish to hear it or not, I am compelled to speak what you must already know. You are also the woman that I love.
Well, since you have said it, I am curious. Why me? Your many romantic conquests are well known. Do you think me the type of woman who would care to join that list of unfortunates?
Unfortunates?
The convents and graveyards are populated by your victims.
The details of what transpired between these dear sad women and myself are unknown to anyone beyond the false and vicious conjecture that has circulated. I did what I could to save them from their melancholy, but I never adored any of them as I do you.
Then I ask you again, why me? What is it that you adore about me?
Everything.
Everything. I say that it is only one thing. I have never, despite your sometimes inventive flirtations, displayed the slightest interest in your obvious charms. You are quite unaccustomed to that.
Charles grabs hold of her.
Despite your insistence on ignoring my sincere declarations, the fact remains that I love you. I have always loved you from the moment I saw you. That was when I knew I must have you.
Possess me?
Yes.
Let go of me.
Kiss me.
No.
Therese slaps Charles and pulls away.
Come here.
One of the reasons I have remained loyal to Pierre, despite the fact that our relationship has placed my reputation on a precarious precipice, is because as a young girl I vowed that when I did wed, I would never be ordered about.
Cecile enters.
Madame?
I am all right, Cecile. I want you to leave.
Therese.
Get out.
Charles moves to leave.
You will never be welcomed here again.
Charles exits. Act 2, Scene 3. Joseph's room. Obviously, several of Joseph's belongings have been sold. He is listening to Sophie sing some of his newly composed vocal music, L'autre jour à l'ombrage.
This is wonderful, Joseph. You wrote this for me.
Yes.
I love it.
She kisses him.
Quite moving. I cannot wait to perform it in public.
Speaking to the bust of Nanon.
Did you hear that lovely music, Mamma? You must be very proud of your boy. You should write music in honor of your dear Mamma.
I have and I do, Sophie. Everything I compose is in some way in honor of her.
Even this piece dedicated to me?
It was Mamma that taught me how to love. The deep affection I have for you, my dearest, is a result of her example.
You are very special, Joseph. I could never care for another man in the same way that I care for you. Our love is once in a lifetime.
Once in a lifetime. One chance for sublime happiness.
I am sublimely happy.
I have tried to be happy with our one-room love affair, Sophie. You know that to be irrefutable. I now know that unless we are married, you openly declaring that I am the man you love, I could never be truly happy.
My darling, I have always from the beginning been honest with you. Why is it so difficult for you to accept what cannot be changed?
I told Benjamin Franklin that despite having to live in the world as it is, he has a choice whether or not to participate in that which contradicts what is self-evident. I can no longer participate in that which denies my equality.
What are you saying?
That you must make a choice. Agree to be my wife, live openly with me, bear my children, or as tender and deep my affection for you has, is, and perhaps will always be. This romance is finished.
The choice of either losing you or losing all that I have spent my entire life fighting for?
You do not know that you would lose anything.
Oh, Joseph, I am a prima donna only because my audience sees something in me beyond my artistry. It compels them to buy tickets. What they see, I do not know. But all that matters to the opera officials is that it generates profit. Losing popularity with the public would mean the end. My talent could not save me.
Marrying me would destroy what they see?
I am not brave enough to find out. Have you given any consideration to how our public union would affect your more than likely appointment as director of the opera? The scandal could put an end to any chance of obtaining that position. Keeping our luck private is vital to both our futures. Illicit affairs result in dreadful consequences once made public. Treated with vigilant discretion, even in the face of whispered rumor, it is as if they do not exist.
Illicit? Sophie, you may not be willing to risk everything to live out of the shadows, but I am. The opera can go to hell. I ask you one last time to find the courage to choose life as my wife.
I cannot.
Then go.
Joseph, please.
Leave.
Sophie places the ring on the table and exits. Act 2, Scene 4, Franklin's salon. Pierre reads from the royal contract. Franklin and Therese listen attentively while King and George serve cognac.
6 ships will be chartered to transport weapons, to include 50,000 Charvel musket and bayonet, 10,000 each of Duval pistols, French sabres, swords, and spontoons, as well as uniforms, boots, linens, blankets, tents, and provisions to outfit 30,000 troops, and up to 500 tons of gunpowder. This will be carried out under the charge of the merchant establishment Roderie Quartelez and Company to ensure France's anonymity in this venture. In return for this substantial investment, the Kingdom of France will be compensated by the American Continental Congress with the restoration of territories lost as a result of the 1763 Treaty of Paris, including former possessions east of the Mississippi River, New France, now called British North America, and Louisiana west of the Mississippi. In addition, the French royal court will be provided with a yearly allotment of 1 ton each of cotton and tobacco, along with 30 barrels of indigo, to be continued for a period of 10 years. Monsieur Pierre de Beaumarchais, in return for his tireless negotiations to obtain approval from His Majesty for the aforementioned investment and his coordination of its collecting, storing, and shipment, will receive gold, coins, and the commodities of his choosing equal to the amount of 4 million livres. Endorsed on this 2nd day of February in the year 1777 by Charles Gravier, Comte de Vergennes, Foreign Minister to His Majesty Louis XVI of the Kingdom of France. Congratulations, Monsieur Franklin.
Praise is due to you and His Majesty for terms that will bring an astounding return on investment. What about my request for French troops?
Once the result of this initial investment is realized, the king will then give consideration to the prospect of sending French soldiers to further bolster your rebel forces, which would, of course, necessitate an official declaration of war with Britain. So you see, Commissioner, His Majesty has chosen to gamble with the odds still not entirely in his favor. All potential for return on this investment can still be easily lost.
I have steady faith in what General Washington can accomplish with these desperately needed shipments. Advise His Majesty to begin mustering his troops.
Franklin signs both copies of the contract.
A toast, then, to this treaty of amity and commerce, and to additional support that is sure to come.
Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful cognac, Mr. Franklin. You have paid a visit to Monsieur Hennessy?
No, madame. I was paid a visit by the Chevalier de Saint-Georges, and the gift of this superb cognac was the only pleasant aspect of that encounter.
There is a knock on the door. George answers.
I am shocked by this news. My deepest apologies, Mr. Franklin.
Charles, drunk, pushes his way past George.
Bonjour, tout le monde.
May I help you? We have met, have we not?
Charles, what are you doing here?
You are drunk.
Yes, we have met. Yes, I am drunk. I am here to see you, my love.
He has been following us. Leave now, Charles, or I will toss you down the stairs.
Charles pulls a pistol.
No, you will not. I am sorry to interrupt your ménage à trois.
Hold on, young man. What is troubling you?
George moves to seize Charles from behind.
No, black boy. You don't stand next to him.
George makes his way to King.
What is troubling me, monsieur, is that the woman I adore, the only woman I have ever truly loved, is wasting her youth in the arms of a man who cares so little for her that he has allowed her to languish for years in a bed of impropriety.
Are you referring to me or your scandalous reputation?
I never claimed to love any of those women as you supposedly love Therese. What also troubles me is that this self-serving rogue has exposed this dear woman to the seditious philosophy of a few privileged anarchists who threaten natural order. The very existence of the American colonies is inextricably tied to Britain. To sever that tie can only lead to chaos. These constant attacks on the property of the English king, the harassment and murder of his loyal subjects, amount to indomitable terror tactics. Whatever the result, the savage character of the rebels has been exposed for all the civilized world to see.
Wait just a minute.
Charles, have you gone completely mad?
Driven to madness?
You and I were friends, brothers. Why did you destroy that deep affection?
Charles, put the pistol down, please.
I am afraid I cannot.
You can only shoot once, young man.
I need only one shot.
Charles points the pistol at Therese.
I love you, Therese.
Pierre moves to stand in front of Therese.
No!
Charles places the barrel against his temple. George and King move to the body. They confirm his death. Act 2, Scene 5. Joseph's room. Marie is distraught.
I still cannot believe it. Why would he do such a thing?
I do not know. He and I were not friends.
Charles was always so kind to me, displayed only a gentle disposition. I will miss him desperately.
I am at a loss to understand how you could feel such profound affection for another man, and yet I had no knowledge of it.
Do not be upset with me, my dear. You knew nothing of my love for him, and he knew nothing of my love for you. He is gone now. It makes no difference.
You were lovers?
Yes, Joseph, he was one of my lovers. He treated me like a precious icon to be worshipped selfishly by him alone.
Is that what you desire from me?
No. What you and I have is very different. We have things in common that I share with no other, at least no other man. You understand my loneliness because you are lonely as well. Like you, there are few individuals I can trust without question. In fact, there have been several periods since my arrival from Austria that I have had absolutely no one. I lived surrounded only by jealous, hateful courtiers led by that dreadful Duke of Aiguillon, who wanted only to destroy me, and a husband who could not care less if they did.
We do share quite a bit. You and Jacques are the closest people to a family I have left.
That is exactly it, Joseph. We are family, brother and sister. I can tell you anything.
Anything?
Well, even brother and sister keep a few secrets from each other. What is most liberating is that I can be myself with you. No masks, no fear. You feel the same freedom with me, do you not?
You have made this unfortunate situation with Sophie at least bearable. Your support of me professionally has done a great deal to keep me afloat during these difficult times. The Société des Amis de Noir would not exist without you.
The existence of that organization does as much to curb my fury over the abominable treatment of Negroes as it does to assist in rescuing them from the cruel abuse of slavery. What are you smiling at?
You. Are you sure you do not have a Negro great-grandmother lurking in the shadows?
No, but I have a Negro brother whom I am more than fond of. Come here, my black Don Juan.
As brother and sister, is this not a sin?
Like so many of my sins, I cannot help myself.
Act 2, Scene 6. Joseph's room. It is 3 o'clock in the morning. He is composing with pen and paper and drinking wine. There is a knock at the door.
Jacques?
Yes.
Joseph opens the door.
It took some convincing, but they agreed to come. We must get them back before the commissioner awakes.
Come in, please.
King and George enter.
There is no need to fear. As I said, what is discussed here will never be revealed to Monsieur Franklin.
Please sit down. You are most welcomed here. May I pour you some wine?
King nods to George, and they take seats. Joseph pours each a glass of wine.
Do you understand why Jacques and I desired to meet with the both of you?
Only that you want to explain to us how here in France we can be free.
That's right. King Louis upheld the traditional notion of the free soil of the mother country. Although far from a declaration of slavery's abolition, it has provided a means by which a person in bondage residing in France can legally gain their freedom.
I am a lawyer, dedicated to assisting Negroes living in France with a number of issues distinct to the laws and customs in place within its boundaries. One of the most important, and that which I have managed to experience substantial success, is securing deliverance from slavery. Once accomplished for the two of you, there would be nothing Monsieur Franklin could do to legally return you to bondage.
Maybe nothing legal. Then Master Shirkin paid somebody to come looking for us and drag us back to him.
He would not dare subject his reputation to the damage caused by such actions. In any case, let me assure you that the organization of which we are the architects, the Société des Amis de Noir, Society of the Friends of the Blacks, will provide sanctuary, protection, and support during your transition to freedom. You can trust that neither Jacques or I would allow anyone to drag you back to slavery.
Now is the time to take advantage of this opportunity. The political climate regarding slavery can change, closing this door to liberty. You should also keep in mind that Mr. Franklin's sojourn to Paris might end with little notice.
You can't take care of us forever. Even if free, we're going to need a place to stay, find work.
The Society has nurtured relationships with several suitable landlords and businesses that support its work and are willing to rent rooms and provide employment to those men and women under its protection.
My friends, we are not a group acting on emotional impulse. We have developed a meticulously detailed system dedicated to delivering from slavery as many of its victims as possible.
The thing over which we hold the least control is the speed at which you learn to speak French. We will provide instruction, but it is essential that you are both able to converse to a large degree in French. The sooner the better.
Quite a lot to contemplate, is it not?
You right about that.
What are your thoughts?
Ain't sure. I gotta say, I ain't used to being asked what I'm thinking. What you thinking, George?
How much I appreciate these gentlemen and what they's doing, and meaning no offense, I ain't never in my life met a Negro man like you.
I understand, George. I am deeply saddened by that fact.
Sure is exciting to think that George and I could be free just by agreeing to go along with you gentlemen. The problem for me is that I got family back in Philadelphia, a son, 2 daughters, and 3 grandchildren. I don't live with them, but they all got the same massa, and I'm lucky to be allowed to visit often enough, bringing them extras that make their life a little easier. My mother is still living. She's the only remaining slave of a woman whose husband used to be master of my whole family. I'm her last living child. Her life be lonely as it is. Without me, it might be just too much for her. I can't abandon all those I love and who depend on me.
I got a wife and 3 sons. Don't see him as much as King sees his kin, but the time I do spend with him is what keeps us a family. If I was a young buck, no folks depending on me, I'd jump at the chance for the kind of freedom you offering.
Benjamin Franklin ain't a bad master. There'd be a lot worse. He treat us fairly as any master treat his slaves. And if they win the war they fighting for their freedom, might just bring freedom to us.
I cannot fault you for living with hope for freedom in the English colonies, but you should know that the economy of America, the source of all that makes the lavish life of Monsieur Franklin and his colleagues possible, depends on the continuation of slavery. You and your beloved families are nothing more than property to be used to generate wealth. I understand that Franklin exhibits affection for you, but—
Jacques! If you have that amount of hopeful faith in the future of an independent America, then it is not in our place to insist otherwise. Neither of us have been to America. Your time in Paris is not over. You still have the opportunity to think about our proposition. If either or both of you decide that freedom in Paris is worth the price that would need to be paid, then Jacques and I will be here. You remember that we are your friends.
Act 3, Scene 1. Joseph's room. Joseph is asleep. We hear the sound of maracas playing. Nanon appears, dressed in the traditional colorful costume of Guadeloupe Island. She hums a song of a mother's love. Joseph wakes. He picks up his guoca drum and taps out a calaja rhythm. Nanon begins to sing the words in French. Joseph repeats the words in English.
Ma maman peut-elle venir à moi?
Can my mama come to me?
Tous les cannes à sucre est-elle coupée?
Is all the sugar cane cut?
Non mais elle viendra mon enfant.
No, but she will come, my child.
Bien qu'elle fuit la mort.
Though she runs from death.
Bien qu'elle fuit la mort.
Though she runs from death.
Bien qu'elle fuit la mort.
Though she runs from death.
Bien qu'elle fuit la mort.
Maman.
Mon fils, êtes-vous bien?
Je suis malade. I miss you.
I still watch over you, mon cher.
I am lonely. Unmarriageable.
Joseph, as complicated as life is, each of us can only play the cards we are given. You seek to play cards you have not yet been dealt.
Am I not deserving?
You deserve all that you desire, mon fils. My soul aches at seeing you suffer. I know that I have failed you.
You have not failed me, Mamma. It was never in your power to give me the freedom that I demand.
That is where I failed you, mon amour. Happiness that depends on acquiring only what is improbable will most likely lead to misery. I failed to teach you how to seek contentment and pleasure in what is probable, while remaining always hopeful.
So much unimaginable cruelty and death on that plantation, Mamma. How was it possible for you to be happy?
I only had 2 cards. I played them and won your father.
He truly loved you.
And I loved him.
I have made a mess of my life. I am seen by many as only an ambitious outsider.
Those who have recognized and support her talents would not share that opinion.
Do you think I can win her back?
I do not know. What I can tell you with unbreakable confidence is that when one candle burns out, you need only light another to once again illuminate the darkness.
And what if I cannot?
Then I will help you. When you need me, I will be here.
Act 3, Scene 2. Therese's apartment. Pierre and Therese, dressed in black, have returned from the memorial for Charles.
Well, I'm relieved to come to the end of that tragedy. How are you, my love?
Not quite out of its shadow.
The demons that plagued Charles had blackened his soul. You are not to blame for his madness in any way. Neither of us are to blame, nor could we have saved him.
I cannot help but suspect that you and I might have been able to shine light into that blackness if we had shown him some compassion instead of only anger. He truly believed that he was in love with me.
You doubt his feelings for you?
From the start, I never felt what I understood to be love emanating from Charles. Just a painful longing that could never be fulfilled by any woman.
I miss his friendship, but I cannot find it in my heart to understand him, only pity him. When I learned of his abuse of you, I wanted to kill him. If it had not been for your insistent pleas, I would have done so. I am sorry, mon cher. I have not your capacity for sympathy in this case. You mean more to me than my own life.
Pierre.
I speak the truth. I would kill for you, and I would die for you, cheerfully.
I adore you.
I regret that it has taken these past 12 years for my love to compel me to bring an end to a situation that has, on several occasions, caused you embarrassment. I beg you to forgive me. Marie-Thérèse de Villemalas, will you take pity on this fool and consent to be my wife?
She consents. They kiss. Act 3, Scene 3. Joseph's room.
You are absolutely sure that you are careful?
Yes.
Every time?
Every time, Marie. I am sure that you can set your mind at rest. The child is not mine.
I will not experience a restful mind until this child is born. It can only be Charles, you, or Louis. If it is Louis, then God heard my prayers and has gifted his divine forgiveness. If the child belongs to Charles, then none may be the wiser, and his permanent absence negates the possibility of future complications. If yours, then I am done. Done. I could not even return to Austria. As much as it pains my soul, dear love, we must not meet in private again. The invitations to perform at my chateau will remain forthcoming. To suddenly drop you from the list of frequent entertainers would draw suspicion in itself. And I could not bear not seeing you at all.
As you wish. Until after the birth of the child thing.
No, mon cher. I am afraid we can never experience that sweet entwined bliss again. Joseph, do not look at me like that. I have no choice. We have been playing a dangerous game. A game so addicting that we ignored the ultimate price that might need be paid. I have promised God that if he allows me to win this round, I will play no longer. Know that you have not lost your support, Joseph. Your beautiful music, your work for the betterment of your people, will always be close to my heart.
Still brother and sister.
Yes. Before I leave this room for the last time, will you consent to one small token of sinful affection that must then be forever denied?
They kiss.
Merci.
Marie, even if the child is mine, there is a possibility that no one would be the wiser.
I could not allow a Negro to be heir to the throne of France. Goodbye, Joseph.
Marie exits. Act 3, Scene 4. Franklin's salon. Franklin and Pierre enter. Pierre assists Franklin, who is suffering an attack of gout.
How inconvenient. I am sorry to subject you to my physical difficulty.
No need to apologize, Mr. Franklin. The father of my second wife suffered from gout, and his howls were a testament to its excruciating pain.
Your second wife? I assumed that you had been married only once before now.
Twice, in fact, Mr. Franklin. In both instances, made a widower within the first 2 years of matrimony.
Quite unfortunate. Children?
One son from my second wife. His name is Augustine. He became a heavenly angel at the age of 2.
Tragic. You and I must spend an evening in which the subject of American independence is not allowed.
At your pleasure, Monsieur Franklin.
I must say again, that was a superb meal. Thank you. The restaurant's name is Le Procope?
Oui, Mr. Franklin. Le Procope. Long a favorite of mine. I am happy you enjoyed it. It was established over 90 years ago.
Astounding. King George, somehow the word got around that I like mutton, which is true, but I have lately been served mutton at every salon at which I've been invited, and of course eaten it as not to offend. What a pleasure it was to have relief from that. With the news you have brought me, my time in your city is approaching its end.
Well, Mr. Franklin, there is still much preparation yet to be accomplished, but I agree, the end of your sojourn is at least in sight.
You must arrange for me to personally thank Her Majesty. I had lost hope in her ability to influence the king.
The Queen is with child, an heir for King Louis. He was willing to grant not only her request to send France's navy and to supply troops to aid in your cause, but from my understanding His Majesty was so ecstatic that he consented to a list of entreaties presented by Her Highness.
Anything that assists in accomplishing our mission, diplomacy, flattery, or a weapon that could be wielded only by Her Majesty Marie Antoinette.
Indeed, Mr. Franklin.
George, King, what's going on?
He opens the door to the kitchen and servants' quarters.
Hello? We have a guest to attend.
He checks his bedroom.
They're not here.
Perhaps they went to market.
The marketing was done this morning. They are not allowed to leave without my knowledge.
There must be an explanation.
I know the explanation. I was afraid of it. My boys have been influenced by the Chevalier. That meddling nigger has convinced them to run.
Mr. Franklin, I give you my word that whatever has happened to your slaves, we will get to the bottom of it.
They're probably not even in the city any longer. What am I going to do? I know how to handle this in Philadelphia, but what am I to do without them?
Commissioner, please. I think your conclusion is premature.
King and George enter.
Where have you been? I didn't give you permission to leave.
Massa, you told us to meet you at the restaurant to tote back that gift from its chain.
Oh, I meant to collect a set of chairs for my sister. I was so taken by the news of the king's decision, the experience of the restaurant, and then this attack of gout that I forgot entirely. Monsieur de Beaumarchais, please forgive my irrational outburst.
Of course, Monsieur Franklin.
Act 3, Scene 5. Joseph's room.
No response at all?
Nothing. She must hate me.
Give it more time. You and she will soon be working closely together. It will be quite difficult for her to ignore you.
A woman has the ability to converse, smile, even flatter, and yet one still is aware that her heart holds only immovable content.
In that case you have no other choice but to accept what cannot be changed.
Light another candle to illuminate the darkness?
That is exactly right, mon ami. Paris has no shortage of candles, but once ignited they all burn out eventually.
Your life lived uncomplicated by the pain of romance has never been more appealing.
None of the pain, but, to be honest, very little of the joy as well.
Perhaps joy is not a card I have been dealt.
There's a knock on the door. It is a messenger.
Letter for Chevalier de Saint-Georges from Her Majesty the Queen.
Merci.
Joseph reads silently.
Good news or bad?
Bad.
Has she given birth?
No. It is regarding my appointment as director of the opera. Dearest Joseph, I have received a rather perplexing petition from Mademoiselle Arnaud. She expresses a strong reluctance to work under your direction, saying that her honor and the delicacy of her conscience make it impossible for her to be subjected to the orders of a Negro, and asks that your name be removed from those being considered to fill the position. I know that this is an outrageous act of vindictiveness. Please remain confident that I will do all that I can to prevent this groundless prejudice from denying you what you unquestionably deserve. In the meantime, tread cautiously. Your loving sister, M.
Well, forget what I said about giving the bitch time to come around.
Sweet revenge.
What will you do?
I am not sure.
You must fight this. You are the only man for the job. As the Queen said, this is unquestionable.
Having the depths of Sophie's hate-filled contempt undoubtedly confirmed leaves me stupefied. I have no desire to work in the midst of such destructive turmoil. There would be little possibility for worthwhile artistry.
Suppose the prima donna met with a lethal accident.
You would arrange such an accident?
For you, yes.
My feelings toward the woman are a melange of conflicting emotions, some admittedly quite dark, but they do not equate with wanting her dead.
Why don't I stay with you tonight? You should not be alone.
No, mon ami, I will be all right. I still have a few cards with which to play.
As you wish. I will call for you in the morning. We can make our way to the society together.
I would like that. You are a good friend, Jacques, a brother. I have never actually told you how much I appreciate you.
You have never had to say it. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Jacques exits. Joseph fills his wine glass, then moves to his desk. He plucks on his violin, writes. We hear the sound of maracas. Nanon appears. Pleased with her son, she places her hand on his cheek.
Merci, Mama.
He kisses her hand.
Thank you.
Act 3, Scene 6. Joseph's lodgings. We hear the sound of rioting in the streets. Joseph and Jacques enter the room quickly, shutting and bolting the door. They are both out of breath.
Incredible. Mad, filled with rage.
Desperation and hunger have turned to rage. It is up to Louis now. Will he give them hope or continue to ignore what has been brewing for some time?
You may have faith in His Majesty's capacity for compassion, but I do not. I doubt that he has any more than a passing awareness of any problems beyond his own concerns, let alone the desperate harshness so many of his subjects face on a daily basis.
12 miles outside of Paris, he lives in a world never touched by such struggle. Perhaps he is the wrong king for such troubled times.
Joseph crosses himself, says a silent prayer at the crucifix.
Do you really believe the answer will come from entreaties to that object?
Possibly. Mama always did.
The clergy will tell you that there is no doubt. They encourage prayer to that piece of wood to keep the minds of the people from recognizing their destructive hypocrisy. Look at the masses starving in the street. You can be sure that no member of the clergy will be found amongst them.
The church is at least responsible for one of the few sources the people have for charitable relief.
Insignificant. A masquerade to hide the face of apathy. My friend, you must see that there is a carefully constructed mission to control all who come under the church's oppressive influence, dominance of the world's multitudes, whether slave or free.
Whatever the sins of the Catholic Church, the Church is not God. And as much as its authority to speak for God has been forced into the hearts of the people, it is God himself that can, in the end, crush its power, even tame the power of Versailles. Liberty, brotherhood, the control of one's own destiny, the equality of man, These sacred tenets are at the root of the Enlightenment. I believe that with God's help, this new age will bring about an overwhelming wave of freedom unknown to mankind. The end of feudal abuse supported by divine privilege, and foremost to me, an end to slavery. What are you smiling at?
Nothing.
Act 3, Scene 7. Franklin's lodgings. The room looks as it did at the opening of the play. All decorations have been removed except for a large vase that sits near the entry door. There are 3 trunks resting on the floor. George and King are packing Franklin's clothing and personal belongings in 2 of them, and their own in the 3rd. There's a knock at the door. George answers. A merchant enters. George refers to the vase.
This be the last of it.
1,500 livres. Here you are.
The merchant picks up the vase.
Please tell Monsieur Franklin that I wish him a safe journey back to America, and give him my thanks once more for his generosity.
Yes, sir.
Bon voyage.
The merchant exits.
Generous is right. That man might as well have stolen in things from Massa.
I gotta say, part of me sure wanted to ask that man to tote me over to that Negro Society. This be the last day, King. Once we get on that ship tomorrow morning, we ain't never coming back.
You saying you want to stay here? What about all that talk about your family and how much they need you?
They do need me, just like your family need you. But that don't mean my heart can just give up on the chance of freedom like it don't matter.
I want my freedom just as much as you, but this ain't the right way to get it. Not for me. If I stayed here in Paris without my people, my body might be free that my mind could never be. Wouldn't even be able to sleep at night.
I've been thinking that maybe we could save up the money to buy our folks' freedom and bring them over here to France. The Chevalier say we have work and a place to stay. I know he and that society would do all they could to help us.
How you know your children's master and your mama's nasa sell them to you, especially once they learn you a runaway? Then what? You stuck all the way over here in Paris and never see them again. And suppose you try going back home and tote them back yourself. Then the slave catchers could get you, take you right back to Benjamin Franklin.
I guess we ain't never gonna be free.
Nah, I ain't saying that. I truly believe that once the war for freedom back home is won, we gonna get our freedom too. We just gotta wait. You, me, and all our folks will be free.
I just don't know.
Franklin enters, looks at them suspiciously. George and King return to work. Act 4, Scene 1. Therese's apartment. Therese is pregnant. Pierre holds a letter.
It is over. Nothing more can be done.
Pierre, are you sure?
There is absolutely no doubt. The treaty is signed and has been approved by all nations involved, including the Kingdom of France. We have only maintained unquestionable right to territory that was ours before the war ever began. Spain has profited well. Even the Dutch Republic has been awarded a substantial trade agreement with the United States. But what is astoundingly ironic is that Britain, the supposed enemy of the rebels, has come out on top, maintaining not only control of the vast area of territory north of the United States, now permanently referred to as British North America, but is also the leading trading partner of their former colonies.
Has Vergennes gone mad?
It is not his fault, mon amour. We have been betrayed by Benjamin Franklin and his colleague John Adams. They both realized that they no longer need France and have decided to honor none of their agreements with us.
There must be something His Majesty can do. We have allies. An army can be raised.
France's financial troubles were dire before such large investment in the American cause. It is now disastrous. You have seen what is happening on the streets of Paris. I can only imagine that it will get much worse before relief is at hand. Louis has gambled and lost. I have gambled and lost.
Will we be all right?
Oui, mon ange, we will survive. Perhaps a bit more frugal than desired, but we will be fine. What a waste! Over 1 billion livres and countless French soldiers' lives lost, and all for nothing.
Pierre.
Act 4, Scene 2. Joseph's lodgings. Marie is pregnant.
I have never felt so alone or afraid. The people hate me. They have made me the symbol of all that has led to their present struggles. What have I done to them?
You must bring Louis to his senses.
To tell the truth, I have never had faith in the king's ability to rule. You know, after our coronation, I overheard Louis saying a prayer asking God to protect him, for he ruled too young. Unfortunately, his naivete has barely improved. Forgive me for my cruel abandonment of you, mon amour. I know now that apart from my child, I have very little besides you. I miss Charles desperately.
I must admit to you that I have never shared your pain at the loss of Charles.
Do not be jealous, Joseph.
It is not jealousy, Marie, it is relief. Not because we shared your affections, but because he always hated me from the moment I arrived at the violin school of France. His father, Jean-Marie Leclerc, founder of the school, praised my potential, making me his star pupil. The man was also kind enough to become a surrogate father to a Negro youth who had recently lost his own father. I will be forever grateful for that. But your dear Charles never accepted the relationship between his father and I, despite Jean-Marie's devoted love for him. He made it a mission to bring harm to me whenever he could. For Jean-Marie's sake, I am glad that it was not I that brought an end to Charles. But if he had not killed himself, death was nonetheless encroaching upon him.
That is it. I did not know what it was until just now.
What do you mean?
Death. It is encroaching upon me. 1 billion livres lost to the American Revolution, but it is my parties and dresses that have taken the food out of the mouths of the people. I have been labeled Madame Deficit and Austrian baggage. A necklace commissioned by Madame du Barry, extravagant beyond even my tastes, has somehow been credited to me. And the latest insult is the one most horrendous. It is now rumored that my reaction to the poor's lack of bread was to remark, "Then let them eat cake." I could never be so callous. It is impossible for me or anyone to recover from such attacks.
Marie, you are simply going through a very difficult time. You have survived before, and you will survive this. If nothing else, I can attest to your talents for self-preservation. You have had a daughter, so what? This child you are carrying will be a son with no possible question of its lineage. You will win the affection of all your subjects.
Oh, Joseph, I hope you are right.
Act 4, Scene 3. Joseph's lodgings. Joseph and Jacques enter.
Incorruptible, that is what I call him. Maximilien Robespierre, he will be the savior of France.
That was quite a speech. Magnificent.
He battles the Estates General without diplomacy. The government's duty is to make sure there is enough grain and bread for its citizens.
Think for yourself. Do not trust authority to think for you or tell you what to think.
Astounding.
Even more astounding was the shocked silence after he demanded that the clergy and nobles pay taxes.
Voltaire, Rousseau, and now Robespierre. The age of the Enlightenment is unstoppable.
Liberty fills the air. I see the shackles of slavery being unlocked forever. That moment is quickly approaching, Joseph.
May God increase the speed of its arrival. Shall we have a toast to Citizen Robespierre?
Absolument.
I have never been filled with such optimism regarding the victory of freedom. Not just man's physical freedom, but freedom of heart and mind from the darkness of injustice.
Your optimism has infected me, my friend. Here's to the savior of France, Maximilien Robespierre. Asante.
Asante. The events of these past months have made my entire dreadful experience with Sophie much less dreadful. The full blessings of love will come, my friend, to both of us. The only enemy is the loss of hope.
I have been sleeping with that enemy for some time. Is there any hope for my love, Joseph?
Jacques,
You know, do you not?
my brother, the thought of hurting you is intolerable, as is the thought of losing you.
Joseph, you must know by now that you could never lose me.
And I will never abandon you.
Act 4, Scene 4. Therese's apartment. Preparations are being made to leave Paris. There are 2 trunks being packed by Cécile with Therese's help. Pierre sits at the desk, writing necessary correspondence. Cécile refers to the hanging crucifix on the wall.
Stay or go, madame.
Stay, taking that portends permanent exile.
And the word permanent will never in any way be associated with our time away from this city.
No, Pierre, I am filled with a sense of foreboding uneasiness. I wonder if it will be possible to return to the city we love.
Now listen to me, Monage. I promise you that we will return to our beloved Paris.
We may return, but will it still be a Paris that we can love?
There is a knock on the door. Cécile answers.
Bonjour, Cécile.
Bonjour, chevalier. Entrez, s'il vous plaît.
Chevalier, welcome.
Monsieur de Beaumarchais, Madame de Beaumarchais, please forgive my unexpected visit, but I thought it urgent that I should come to see you in person.
Is something the matter?
It was rumored, monsieur, that you and your family are planning to abandon Paris. I see that the rumor is true.
Not at all. I am simply providing ensured safety for my wife and child in the face of rising danger within the country's political climate. We could never abandon this city. Our time away will be temporary until the coming storm has passed.
The clouds are not as dark as you imagine, monsieur. In fact, the more aristocrats that stay and proclaim their support for Robespierre, the sooner France will emerge from these present troubles a stronger, safer, and more virtuous society.
I am afraid that vision of France, as wonderful as it is, would be impossible through completely peaceful means. Blood is the price that must be paid, perhaps the blood of thousands. I admit that the horrendous cost in lives to win liberty for America might be clouding my view, but I will not risk the lives of my family to find out.
Where will you go?
Germany. I have cousins in Hamburg. Chevalier, I urge you to at least make a plan for escape should the need arise. There could very quickly develop a tide of vengeful murder whose current could easily sweep you away.
I sincerely appreciate your concern, monsieur. However, my place is here, to face whatever comes with a resolute determination to do all that I can to see that at least French slavery is brought to its end.
Of course.
I will always harbor the greatest appreciation for your unwavering support of me, until your return to Paris.
Au revoir, Chevalier. Bonne chance.
Au revoir. Madame de Beaumarchais, Cécile, bon voyage.
Merci, Chevalier. Bonne chance.
Act 4, Scene 5. Franklin's lodgings. They have been taken over by Maximilien Robespierre and his mistress Eleanore Duplay. The atmosphere is dreary. Same desk, same buffet, which is topped with glasses and wine bottles, and the same storage cabinet from before. However, the former table has been replaced with a large rectangular table running lengthwise from upstage to downstage, with 2 chairs and 2 gold candelabras. The table and desk are loaded with books and stacks of papers. On the wall are 3 large portraits, one of Voltaire, one of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and one of Robespierre. The window treatment is a heavy chocolate-colored fabric. Robespierre, Joseph, and Jacques enter.
Bravo, Joseph. Your speech was quite moving. Even the clergy and many of the nobles found your words against the evils of slavery hugely convincing.
Merci, citizen. My years of work with the Société des Amis des Noirs made it easy to find the words to express the righteousness of our mission.
I am impressed by this addition to your already vast talents. You will be a magnificent symbol of the new France.
I have given one speech, citizen, You have stood before the Estates General uncountable times, chipping away at defensive walls with every word. Your battles are many. Mine, for the moment, have only one focus.
Once slavery has been abolished, the addition of your expanded focus will be of even greater benefit.
Citizen Robespierre, do you still have faith that the new France will be possible without bloody revolution?
It is difficult to say. I still cling to a hopeful heart, despite ever-decreasing probability. I'm encouraged by any sign that the tenets of the Enlightenment will be convincing enough to trigger, without bloodshed, what I know to be an inevitable transition. Everything lies with the strength of Louis's character.
If that is where everything lies, then there is nothing left but to fortify ourselves for the people's violent retribution.
Eleanor enters from the bedroom.
Eleanor, mon cher, I hope we did not wake you.
No, I was reading.
Citizens, this is my Eleanor. We share these lodgings. My dear, may I introduce Joseph Bologna and Jacques Brissel, two invaluable additions to the quest for freedom and equality.
Bonjour, citizens. I am well acquainted with both of you through your Société des Amis de Noir. May the need for such an organization pass quickly into history.
Merci, mademoiselle. We are optimistic that at least in France that will soon be the case.
We will all be equal citizens of the new France, Joseph. Refer to me as such, s'il vous plaît.
Of course. Citizen, please forgive any offense.
We are honored by your knowledge and support of the society.
You must try this wine, some of the best in France. It was left behind by the great Benjamin Franklin of America. Eleanor, would you like a glass as well?
Merci, mon amour. You both had the opportunity to meet Benjamin Franklin during his stay in Paris, did you not?
Yes, citizen, in these very rooms.
The victory of Franklin and his colleagues in their bloody war for freedom has set an example for the entire world.
We were discussing the chances of our mission being possible without bloodshed.
That, for the moment at least, is up to Louis.
I agree. He still has the opportunity to avoid such events, if nothing else to spare the lives of those he loves. But his window of opportunity is closing rapidly. Thus are the despicable consequences of absolute power. I can only imagine the addictive intoxication of such power. Perhaps it is impossible to resist.
Well, as you said, for the sake of his family, may he come to his senses.
You are acquainted with his wife, are you not?
Yes, I often performed my own compositions for her guests at Petit Trianon.
What an extravagantly luxurious experience that must have been.
I do not recall ever experiencing luxury beyond that which one would expect at the chateau of a Queen of France.
Exactly, citizen.
I am afraid the excitement of the day has caught up with me. Joseph, would you be disappointed if we bid our gracious hosts bonsoir?
No, we have both had a long but very exciting day, thanks to Citizen Robespierre. Our gratitude to you both.
You are most welcome. Our gratitude to the two of you for your service to the people. I will soon call upon you once again for your assistance.
You have only to call.
Bonsoir, Jacques. Joseph.
Bonsoir, citizens. You can count on our loyalty.
Bonsoir.
Joseph and Jacques exit. Act 4, Scene 6. Joseph's lodgings. Joseph and Jacques enter.
I agree. There is no hope for a transition of power without violence.
I am struck by the feeling that Robespierre never desired a bloodless victory. Violent revolution is what he and Eleanor wanted from the beginning.
You are concerned about Marie?
I insisted that she was not in danger.
Well, perhaps His Majesty will come around.
You do not believe that for 1 second, and now neither do I. How can I help her?
You do not have the power to help her, Joseph. That responsibility lies with her husband.
Then she and her children are doomed. Mistakes.
What?
Not only Marie, George and King as well. Now that the end of slavery in France is all but guaranteed, it is even more apparent to me that if I had pushed harder to convince them to stay, suggested that we try to raise the money to buy both their families' freedom and bring them to France, we might have saved our friends from continued bondage. Their trust that the American rebel spirit of freedom would embrace them as well was unfounded.
Joseph, your actions were of a pure heart.
I would prefer a wiser heart. On the other hand, I cannot shake a rising sense of foreboding regarding the future of our land. A fate I dreamt suffused with virtuous freedom has been poisoned by encroaching chaos. Our leading citizen aligns himself with the tenets of the Enlightenment. The three portraits in his lodging make that undoubtedly clear. But amongst Voltaire, Rousseau, and Robespierre, only Robespierre remains alive as interpreter of the enlightened philosophy in France. That fact fills me with uneasiness.
Do not lose hope in the destiny of this country, my brother. Dark clouds have always been part of advancing history. You and I have not struggled this far, sacrificing to the verge of financial ruin to give up on our dream of French equality. The war is close to being won. You must not give in to doubt in the face of our final battle. We will witness freedom emerge from darkness like radiant sunlight.
When did you become the optimist?
When did you become the pessimist?
All right, mon ami. You have restored my faith. You and I, and above all equality, will outlive any darkness to come.
Act 4, Scene 7. The sounds of a huge crowd cursing and jeering. The drop of the guillotine blade. The crowd cheers. Robespierre's lodging. Robespierre stands at the table, silently reading a document. Eleanor sits eyeing Jacques suspiciously, who stands at attention on the opposite side of the table.
Citizen Brissot, I know you to be a supporter of the revolution.
You are correct, citizen. The tenets of liberty and equality that are the foundation of the People's Rebellion I support wholeheartedly.
And yet, according to my sources, you have spoken out against the arrest of the tyrant Louis and his wife.
Who are these sources?
At this point, their identity will remain confidential.
I have spoken against the execution of the king. In my opinion, his death would only serve to eradicate our negotiating power with Austria and Prussia. As you know, both kingdoms have sworn to invade France should any harm come to the king and his family.
The former king and his wife have been found guilty of high treason, crimes against the state. According to the law, the penalty is death. Are you suggesting that the law of the Republic not be upheld in this case?
Yes.
He is a royalist.
No, a realist. If Austria and Prussia invade, the Republic will be destroyed. We do not have the military means to beat their combined armies. A return to the short-lived constitutional monarchy that Louis finally accepted, albeit too late, would keep political power in the hands of the people while removing any necessity to execute the king and queen. Louis would be nothing more than a powerless figurehead.
He would be a living icon to rally royalist forces in a civil war to return autocratic power to the House of Bourbon.
What is the more dangerous rallying point, a living icon or a martyr?
Citizen, France is a republic, no longer a monarchy, constitutional or otherwise, and she will remain so.
Then our only hope is to attack allied Austria and Prussia first, by surprise, before Louis's execution.
A revolution is waged to free subjects and slaves from unjust tyranny. The rewards of our revolution will only be fully realized once the internal stability of France is accomplished. That is more important than an improbable attack from the outside. Declaring war on Austria and Prussia would provide favorable opportunity for the counter-revolutionaries to gain the upper hand.
I see.
Quoting the brilliant American revolutionary Thomas Jefferson, the tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of tyrants.
Do not worry, citizen. This country is on a road paved with supreme virtue. All will be well.
I think it is clear that your concern is for the good of the Republic.
That is my utmost concern.
Eleanor and I value your thoughtfully outspoken contributions to a journey fraught with difficult decisions. You can set your mind at rest regarding my report to the committee.
Merci, citizen, for your unhesitating cooperation in answering these unfortunate accusations.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, citizens.
Act 4, Scene 8. Joseph's Lodgings.
They would not say who accused you?
No, but Jean-Paul Marat and Camille Desmoulins come forefront to my mind. I have no faith in Robespierre's expression of confidence in my loyalty. I was lucky not to be arrested. I must leave Paris before my luck runs out.
Where will you go?
Home to Chartres, to guarantee the safety of my parents from the paranoid wrath of the committee. Then on to Caen, in Normandy, to join the anti-revolutionary forces entrenched there.
Then you have lost all faith in the revolution?
The revolution is doomed. My focus now is to save France from annihilation. Come with me, Joseph. There is nothing left here for you. Paris is a city of death. Together we can help to make it once again a city of the living.
Until Marie is free, or, God forbid, becomes another victim of this reign of terror, my place is here. I promise you, my brother, whatever the outcome, to then join you at Caen.
Until we meet at Caen, then. It will be the anticipation of that reunion that will make any uncertainty bearable.
Bonne chance, Jacques.
Bonjour, Joseph.
Act 4, Scene 9. The sounds of a huge crowd cursing and jeering. We hear the drop of the guillotine blade. The crowd cheers. Joseph's Lodgings. Joseph enters, exhausted, looking a decade older. He picks up a letter that has been pushed under his door. He then pours a glass of wine, opens and reads the letter. We hear the sound of maracas. Nanon enters.
Bonjour, maman.
Mon fils, comment vas-tu?
Exhausted. Grief keeps me awake. There has been no music. I have not put pen to paper in months. All the promises of a revolution based on the Enlightenment, I have seen very few of them kept. The rights of man, claimed to be valid at all times and in every place, have yet to be upheld. Jacques knew.
No end to slavery?
Yes, slavery has been abolished, thank God. But the streets of Paris turned to rivers of blood, and French soldiers, again dying in war, have tempered the joy of that accomplishment. All I have left is you, Mamma. The nobles and most of the aristocracy are gone. Louis is gone. Marie is gone, their children abused. Jacques was captured, dragged back to Paris, tried, and executed. My God, tens of thousands of French citizens guillotined, many for the smallest word or action seen as disloyal to the Republic.
Be careful, Joseph.
There is no being careful. Not when it comes to the Committee of Public Safety. I've already been arrested once for my so-called royalist sympathies, and they still might come for me again at any moment. What Robespierre once claimed to despise has corrupted him beyond recognition.
Absolute power.
Yes.
That corruption is most often inescapable, mon fils, whether the power is wielded over a republic or a plantation. What cards do you have left? Assess them carefully, then decide what to do. Like with Mademoiselle Arnaud, you cannot play a card you do not possess.
Sophie, that entire episode feels like a lifetime ago. I could not now tell you why I loved her, but I know that I did. Of course you are right, Mamma. I will maintain the strength to play the cards I have been given each day, until the game comes to an end.
Despite any loss or regret.
Despite any loss or regret. I can still create music and lead an orchestra. Those talents, although lately hiding, have not been lost. I can still wield a deadly sword. And then, miss...
He refers to the letter.
There is apparently some confidence in my ability to serve as colonel to a cavalry brigade, a regiment of Negroes who have volunteered to spill their blood in defense of the motherland, a Legion Noire. I suppose those newly freed men have every reason to risk such a sacrifice.
Who has requested this, Robespierre?
No, a new personality who has lately gained recognition for his inability to lose a battle against France's enemies. General Bonaparte.
There. Now all that remains is to decide which is best played now and which is best held for the future. Or perhaps not played at all.
Nanon is gone. Joseph takes a sip of wine, tosses the letter onto the table. He picks up his violin and begins to play the opening of his Violin Concerto Opus 8, No. 9 in G, the second movement. After some measures, he stops. He returns to the letter.